Don't you just love the smell of a new car? I don't think there's much that's better than getting a brand new car, driving it off the lot with, 0 miles, putting that first mile on it, and just that amazing smell. All right, that smell that you're smelling in the new car, let's face the facts. I've always heard that it's actually glue. So maybe we're huffing glue, which we were told not to do in kindergarten. What are we doing with our lives right now if we're getting that brand new car and huffing this stuff? But it is nice to have a brand new car. If we haven't met him, Eric with Jazz Wealth Managers, I want to dive right in today is totally different than our general FinTips videos. I want to talk about buying a car and financing it or paying cash, but from a whole different perspective. Because the idea of paying cash for the car is something that Dave Ramsey talks about, and he really pushes that home. Now, he's not the only one, because I personally actually have cars that are paid for right this second. And the fact is that I hate the idea of payments. But there is the whole financial side of things where it's totally different, because I could truly run the numbers, and generally speaking, I could show you that you were better off financing the car and investing that lump sum of cash and just making a payment. So that is a whole nother side of it. But what about just what's best for you? And that's where this comes into play, because I was talking with a client of mine, and they're in an awesome situation. They're in their 40s. They've done very well for themselves. They've followed the Dave Ramsey model, and they're completely out of debt. Now, the gentleman drives a quite old vehicle, and he was talking about, we're getting to a point where we're going to need a new vehicle. And should we pay cash for it? And we've got the cash to pay for it, or should we finance it? And it got me thinking about things, because they've always done something a certain way that allowed them to get to a great financial position. And what would happen if I say, well, go finance the vehicle, invest the cash? Well, that's great for me, because as a financial advisor, I can then, manage the assets, make money off of that as well. But that's not what I wanted to look at with them. That wasn't the case. Dustin actually did a video for our clients that talked about the idea of financing a vehicle and the math behind it. If you were to actually be able to always stay in a payment, but never have that payment increase, you would always have a break even. And the idea was pretty much to find a vehicle that was at least 2 years old. The reason for that was the fact that if you drive a car off the lot, he had shared that, a vehicle is going to depreciate 19% right then. Well, in today's society, that's a little different just because of supply and demand and the craziness with the vehicles. But in general, that's the averages. So you're going to lose. You're always going to want to buy a car barely used. Well, if you buy the barely used car, then from there, you always look at using only 12% of your income for the monthly payment and the insurance on the vehicle. So anything that comes into play there, only using up to 12% of your income, and only finance the car for 48 months. Once you get past the 48 months, the depreciation of the car continues to fall, and you get yourself into a bit of a pickle. Now, there's a lot of science and math behind all of this, and it's really cool. But again, not everything is finance numbers. There's the psychological side of it, and that's, somebody who the Dave Ramsey guy, gosh, if I could get that out. Dave Ramsey, that's really what he pushes on, is the psychological side, not as much of the actual numbers. And so with this client, and what I really want you to pay attention to is, instead of trying to give you these solid numbers and tell you exactly what you should be doing, here's what you have to realize. If you have always modeled your life to pay off the car, pay it off right away, pay cash for it, that's not the wrong thing to do. It's okay, especially if you are already on track for your retirement years and you have the cash and you hate the payment. On the other side, if you need the car, you have to finance the car, and you're able to be saving still for retirement, that's okay too. The thing that has to come into play, though, is that psychological factor. And this is exactly what I told this client. And this is what I want to tell you that really brings home everything when it comes to this video. This client has always been working on this Dave Ramsey strategy and is used to that. Unfortunately, old habits are hard to break. Be very careful if you get yourself into another payment. I can show you the numbers, how financially it might be the best thing for you. But financially long-term, it could be a bad thing if you get to a point where you're comfortable with debt again and you continue on with that process. Because if this client were to go buy the brand new vehicle and finance it, and they had struggled in years past with running up debts, if they get into that comfort of that payment, and then also in the comfort of the new car, in 3 years, again going out and getting another new car and saying, well, you know what, I'm going to continue this cycle, then you're locked into this payment. Now, if you have surplus income and you want to make a payment on a car, whatever, good for you. But if you're trying to achieve your goals and make sure that you're finding excess money that you can put away to reach your retirement goals, then there's a good possibility that you really need to evaluate you personally to make the best decision instead of trying to figure out, well, Dave Ramsey says this or the financial guy says this. It truly does all come down to what's best for you.
Thanks for watching. If you want to watch more FinTips videos, click here. Be sure to like and subscribe also.